We'll talk about this. All right, here we go. I think this is gonna be super interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, and Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, are planning to bring motherfucker. Okay, are planning to bring survivors of abuse by convicted sex offender. Survivors of abuse by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell to the Capitol. Kana and Massey announced the survivors will join them at a press conference the morning of September 3rd, the day the House returns from August recess. Woo, that's spicy! I didn't know that. Alright, they're gonna be able to move on that shit. Why do you sit there? You're in the danger zone, bro. Ugh. Alright. According to an advisory from the lawmakers, several of the survivors will speak publicly about their abuse for the first time. Attorneys for the survivors, Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson, will also be present. The survivors deserve justice and Americans deserve transparency, Massey said in a post on social platform X. It's Twitter. The press conference comes as Kana and Massey are pushing legislation to compel the Trump administration to release the Epstein files, documents and materials related to the investigation of Epstein and Maxwell. The duo is planning to file a discharge petition to circumvent. The duo is planning to file a discharge petition to circumvent House leadership and force a vote on that measure. A gambit that would require 218 signatures, making a majority of the House to succeed. Wow. Those calling for more Epstein disclosure saw another. This is why he's so worried about losing that fucking majority. Damn, bro. Those calling for more Epstein disclosure saw another blow on Monday after. No, this is not. That's not. The House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, meanwhile, is conducting another investigation of Epstein matter. Committee Chair James Comer said was compelled to issue a subpoena for documents and testimony. See, that's what I want an update on. Deadlines for those subpoenas are coming up in the next few weeks, though dates should change. Yeah, could change. They will. The DOJ is due to send over August 19th. Yeah, they sent over what they sent out in the books, too. All right, that's what I want an update on. What Epstein files have been sent to the House? 6 days ago, 5 days ago. Alright, what do we know about the Epstein? The words Epstein have been haunting the Trump administration for weeks. He grapples with growing crisis that's stemming from sex crimes of late convicted PDF file financier Jeffrey Epstein. Pressure has been growing from President Donald Trump's own supporters and from voices within his own Republican Party for more transparency. Blah blah blah. But the House ordered subpoena. Oh no, this is not what I want. See, NPR. First wave received an initial batch of documents on Friday related to the Justice Department's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The panel's chairman, James Comer, confirmed their arrival in a statement on social media, saying thousands of pages of Epstein-related documents had been delivered to the committee. The release marks the first wave of files to be sent to the committee in response to a congressional subpoena issued earlier this month calling on the DOJ to provide records from its probe of the convicted sex offender and his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Comer has said at least some of those files will eventually be made public. He announced the receipt of the documents shortly after the Justice Department, in a separate move, made available transcripts for 2 days of interviews with Maxwell. We're going to be transparent, even though she lied. We're doing what we said we would do. We're getting the documents, Comer told reporters Capitol, and I believe the White House will work with us. The handling of the Epstein case represents a delicate. Maybe this is what they're getting ready for, you know? They're like, once we actually give them all the files, they're gonna find out, and yeah, they're gonna call for my impeachment. The handling of the Epstein case represents a delicate dance for congressional Republicans. On the other hand, they're navigating pressures for the transparency from their base. On the other hand, on the other hand, the release risks exposing potential embarrassing details about the government's handling of the Epstein investigation, as well as Trump's own past ties to the disgraced financier. Woo! Spicy, 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 spicy. All right, all right, all right. Oh wait, it goes on. Comer told reporters on Capitol Hill that this week he wasn't sure that the committee would receive but he said he expected there would be a lot to review. Comer said the Justice Department would conduct its own review, what should be redacted in the files. He expected the committee to also do a separate review. Critics, including some Republicans, said the release will be far from comprehensive. Democrats have argued the release to the public will be limited and carefully controlled by Republicans. Robert Garcia, the committee's top minority member, noted the panel delivered a bipartisan vote. Releasing the Epstein files in batches just continues the White House covered up. Yep, it is. It is, it is, it is, it is. All right, let's go.
Donald Trump's former biographer, Michael Wolff, is spilling the tea. Michael Wolff was also potentially going to be the biographer for Jeffrey Epstein before Epstein allegedly died by suicide. Michael Wolff had spent hours and hours with Epstein before Epstein was ultimately arrested. Has all of these audio tapes with Epstein, and between all of the hours he spent with Trump and Trump's family, Michael Wolff that is, and Epstein, Wolff has some of the, I think, best knowledge of what could be in the Epstein files, of what Donald Trump is worried about, and Wolff has sources right now still within the White House who are telling him a lot. Like what went down this past weekend as Donald Trump was frantically calling people about what he should do about Ghislaine Maxwell with respect to pardoning her.
What
You're going to hear
fuck?
some never before heard details right here on the Midas Touch Network exclusively from Michael Wolff, who's doing these videos directly for our Midas Touch audience. But first, Michael Wolff has incredible insight on what is in the Epstein files, what he surmises based on his conversations with Epstein, based on what he knows about Donald Trump being Trump's biographer, based on all of his sources. Now, Michael Wolff made this video for me and for the Midas Touch Network before the Democratic House Oversight Committee ranking member and their team, Garcia and his team, went through the files that Donald Trump turned over the weekend, that dumped 33,000 files, and it turned out they were all files that had been produced before, right? 97, 98% of the stuff has already been previously produced. Michael Wolff said before that happened, I guarantee you Trump's not producing anything new. And one of the things, though, that Michael Wolff says that's likely in these files, and I want you to hear it from him directly, is why the Department of Justice in the Southern District of New York kind of went against long-standing DOJ policy and broke a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein and Epstein's co-conspirators that was entered into in 2007 by Alex Acosta, who was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. That really has never happened before. That's one of the main points of Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal to the United States Supreme Court is you have the Southern District of New York not acknowledging a non-prosecution agreement entered about a decade earlier by the Southern District of Florida by Alex Acosta. And what Ghislaine Maxwell's team says is, well, that was the deal, and that should bind all districts. And the Southern District of New York and the court system in New York says it doesn't bind the Second Circuit and the Southern District of New York.
Like they go back.
Donald Trump's former biographer Michael Wolff is investigations that the SDNY was doing about Donald Trump, which is one of the reasons why Donald Trump hates SDNY and got rid of the prosecutor and all of that. So was it actually part of a broader plan to investigate Trump, and that the files will be reflective of investigations into Donald Trump? So Michael Wolff says it better than me, but first let me play you what Michael Wolff says here. Let's play it.
Trump has been making phone calls this weekend, and he's been asking people the following question: what should I do about Maxwell? Now that means
Trump is calling around asking his is it people closest to him, what should he do about Maxwell? What should he do about Maxwell?
actually,
Because if he doesn't have the pardon for her, then she comes out. Then she comes out with the dirty secrets.
knows certainly what he wants to do about Maxwell, and he may know the decision he's made about what to do with Maxwell. And that is, of course, to pardon her. But now let me just recap a moment. So, the Wall Street Journal ran a letter that Donald Trump had written to Jeffrey Epstein in 1993 on the occasion of his 50th birthday. Within the White House, the assumption is that that was leaked by the Maxwell camp, by her lawyers or her family. And there was great panic in the White House, and immediately Trump sent the number 2 in the Justice Department, Todd Blanche, his personal attorney, down to the prison in Florida where Ghislaine Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence. So the number 2 in the Justice Department goes down to have a discussion with a convicted felon and sex offender. The transcript of that interview is published over the weekend. What it says is the following. Ghislaine Maxwell says Donald Trump is a wonderful guy. Fantastic. She never saw him do anything bad to anyone, never anything inappropriate. Perfect gentleman. And then the next thing she says is that birthday letter, that birthday card that Donald Trump, that the Wall Street Journal says Donald Trump has written, she never saw it. She was in charge of the birthday book, but she didn't see this card. The third thing, it really just jumps out at you, is how obsequious Todd Blanche, the number 2 in the Justice Department, is to Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex offender.
Hey, low-key, what's going on in Canada,
It's
bro?
like a tea party. So again, in Trump world, files, portions of which are now being released to Congress. This is my surmise about what the government holds. First, there are the depositions taken from the many accusers of Jeffrey Epstein. Then there are the FBI's separate interviews with some of the accusers and an assessment of their credibility, which might not be pleasing to the MAGA people. Then there's the DOJ's internal discussions of why they took the unprecedented step in 2019 of breaking their 2007 non-prosecution agreement with Epstein, and potentially who brought pressure on whom to make this happen, and to whose advantage this might, again, unprecedented act might have been. Then there's the investigation of the death, which I suspect was cursory. Then there are his emails, which will connect perhaps hundreds of new people to the list of people.
There's emails. There's emails that connect him to a fucking prime minister in Israel. Like, yo, this shit has teeth. This dog hunts. There is some shit behind this whole files, alright? This shit has them scared. Oh, man.
With which Epstein was acquainted, including many people in the first Trump administration, many Trump friends, and quite likely they contain new details about Epstein's relationship with Trump. Then the hard drive. And here we might likely find financial information that will alarm, worry, possibly destabilize many regimes abroad. In other words, much of what is in these files will reflect badly on everyone, keeping this scandal going for many years. Therefore, what we will likely see is only versions of what we have seen before. And the secrets, the true secrets, will remain hidden for some time to come. But let me focus on what may be the most damaging, immediately damaging part of these files. And that's the DOJ's discussion of why, in fact, they took the unprecedented step to break the non-prosecution agreement in 2019. In 2007, Epstein entered into an agreement with the Justice Department, a binding written agreement, that the Justice Department would not prosecute him on federal charges if he pled guilty to state charges in Florida. This is not an unusual step. What is unusual is that the Justice Department would then later renege on its agreement. So what were the reasons for this? Who brought pressure on whom to do this, and who benefit? Part of the discussion has been that the 2007 agreement was too lenient. He should have gone to jail for far longer than he did, and that the Justice Department was somehow complicit in this. And that's almost been the excuse for why no one has looked closely at the 2019 decision to go forward to renege on the agreement.
So one of the things is Alex Acosta, the district attorney who made that sweetheart deal for him, he's been subpoenaed. He has a deposition he has to attend to talk about, the leniency that was given and why and all that stuff.
And to go forward.
And who put pressure on him to make it so lenient.
With the prosecution. The issue, however, is that the Justice Department is not saying we made a mistake, we're blaming ourselves, we are taking this step because of something we did, which might not be legal anyway. They are taking this step for reasons we don't know, but we can assume that there is a meaningful issue here. Somebody wanted this done. Now, it could quite be, and this is what certainly there may exist in these files, is either Donald Trump's communication to his Attorney General, Bill Barr, that something had to be done about Epstein, who had begun talking, not least of all in my books, about his relationship with Donald Trump. He needed possibly to be shut up. How explicit might that be in these files? Or it may have been the Southern District, the office of the Justice Department in New York City, which has always been fiercely independent and may well have been conducting its own investigation of Donald Trump and sought to bring leverage on Jeffrey Epstein for him to tell what he knew in his long relationship with Trump. So, specifically, what information was it looking for, and what did the Southern District believe that Jeffrey Epstein could tell it about Donald Trump? This might well be in the Epstein files, might well be the for Donald Trump, the most fearful thing in the Epstein files. At any rate, we can only assume that what's in these files is far more damaging than the damage of not releasing them, and that so far has been considerable.
Powerful stuff. Again, you're hearing it directly from him. You're not hearing this anywhere else. So let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MidasPlus.com.